and welcome in to Views from the Sidelines. It's July 8th. I'm your host, Joey Tysick. My partner, Malik Hill, just coming off a July 4th weekend. Nice and sunny here in Michigan. Great weather, hanging out. With the loosened terms of the pandemic, we've been able to get together with family a little bit. Malik, did you get to do anything for July 4th, or did you stay inside away from the heat?
I went over to a family member's house. They made food. A whole bunch of people made food. It was almost more food than I could handle.
Right.
Just played games for a few hours, and then once the fireworks started, fireworks are a lot. I've never been the biggest fan of fireworks. I mean,
Okay.
if I go somewhere watch fireworks with a huge crowd, that's fine. But when you're on a street and there are people all up and down the street setting off fireworks nonstop, that's something else. Yeah, it went on for a while too.
Fair enough.
So 4th of July was pretty good for a while.
Yeah.
Pretty good for a while.
All right. Well, anyway, we got some more stuff to catch up on today. We're going to try to go over some college sports. We're going to figure out where everybody's at with basketball, college football, and we can even talk about if we think they're going to have a season, stuff like that. But to start us off, we're going to talk about what the teams have done locally, Michigan State, for basketball and football, as far as recruiting and any big names that have happened. Spoiler alert, Michigan State has a big one that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But I'll let Malik start off with the Michigan recruits first, since I'm kind of out of the loop. I haven't been doing my research with no sports. I haven't been doing as much looking around. So
yeah, recruiting is kind of my thing in college football and basketball. I follow it almost on a daily, especially in these times.
right,
It's good to it's good to see things are still happening. Sports just haven't stopped. Kids are still committing. Some of the best players in the country are committing. So yeah, it's good to see. But when it comes to Michigan, they've gotten 2 recruits in the past 3 weeks for their 2021 class. Their first one, a kid named Isaiah Barnes out of Oak Park, Illinois. He's a combo guard, small forward. He could be either one. 6'6", 180. He's a guy that went unranked for most of the year, but as people started to go through looking at his highlights, summer highlights and over the season highlights, he jumped from unranked to top 100 just like that. He was from unranked to top 50 first of all. Then he went back to top 100 the next week. It was a more reasonable ranking around 95, 96. But yeah, he's a 4-star guy. From what I've watched, I like his game. He has a lot to build on. There's a reason why he was unranked until a month ago. His game wasn't amazing, but this past season I think he averaged almost 23, 8, and 5. Really athletic, nice jumper. Has to work on his handle, has good handle, but has to work on it. So a guy I could see working at Michigan. And then another guy, I had to get your help getting this guy's last name.
we're still not 100% sure.
Will Shetter, I think, but it starts with a T. T-S-C-H-E-T-T-E-R. It's just confusing. No point of a T. Some silent letters just don't need to be in words or names. It's his last name is what it is. Will Shetter, kid out of Minnesota, power forward. This is a guy, I watched his highlights and I thought he wasn't good at all the first time I watched him, honestly. He's not very athletic, not very quick. So I had to do more research into him, and then I looked into his story. He's been starting at his high school since he was a freshman. He averaged 11 his first year, 22 his sophomore year. And this past year as a junior, he averaged 33 points and 11 rebounds. And I looked at his competition. It wasn't bad competition. He's not playing against a bunch of 5'9" kids
right.
that can't guard him at all. 33 and 11 is impressive on any level, but he's a scoring machine. And like I said, he doesn't have a large amount of athleticism. He's not the fastest or quickest. But when he gets the ball in the post or mid, and he can stretch out and hit the 3 too. I think I saw he hit almost 45% of his threes. So he's just a scoring machine when he gets the ball in his hands. Really good in the post. I've seen clips of double, triple teams coming at him. He still figures out ways to score. Good shooter. His form is really weird. If you watch his highlights, it's after this podcast, I'll have you watch him. It's really just really weird, but it falls. But hey, 33-11,
Yeah,
you can build off of that.
right.
And yeah, Michigan got in on him at the right time.
I'm gonna say, and it sounds like from me just hearing about these guys, Michigan has gone with 2 guys that are on the rise, and
Yeah,
they're hoping that
most
they
definitely.
continue to grow.
Yeah, the Will Shetter kid, I think going into the summer, I think he only had like a few D2 offers. And then he started playing some summer games, and he got like 4 or 5 D1 offers after that. And then Michigan jumped in. They gave him a virtual tour of the campus, like the whole staff. And he committed immediately after that.
Hmm. And we've already seen guys that, don't get as big of offers, guys like Duncan Robinson that have worked
Yeah.
out in Michigan before. So that's something they can definitely do. So that'll be interesting to see. Another thing that, maybe, I'm just speculating here, maybe too, they think of a guy like Luka Garza for Iowa. Like, his early on, he didn't look good. Like, I didn't think he was going to do anything.
He
I was
didn't
like,
stick out at all.
who is
Honestly,
this guy?
until this season, he had some bright spots last season, but
Yeah.
he really didn't stick out to me until this past season.
I think it was the tournament last year where he started to show a little bit. And then this year, he just exploded.
Yeah.
And had, like, a great senior season, which is really cool. So I think that's kind of what they're banking on, that these guys are going to just grow and fit into the system. And again, like, we're still early in Howard's reign with this team, so he's trying to build his style of program,
Yeah.
what he wants to do. So maybe he's trying to get those guys in and fit them to a certain mold. Who knows?
Yeah, these 2 guys are honestly, they remind me of like Beeline recruits over the years. So I'm really, I know he's gonna eventually get some of the big fishes. There, he has like a 5-star center that's like has Michigan in his top 3 right now. But yeah, these are the type of guys Beeline would get over the decade, and he would like make them all Big Ten guys.
And I was going to say it's similar to how Michigan State does it with football previously, not necessarily right now, but where they take these somewhat smaller recruits, maybe not to the same degree, but they just know that they're going to fit and they're going to work hard for that team and they're going to fit the certain play style that they have. And, even, well, Michigan State basketball has gotten a lot of big names in the last couple of years, but I always think it's an interesting approach when you see, like, a lot of teams, like, obviously Duke and Kentucky and those guys getting the top guys every single year. And then there's certain teams like Michigan and stuff that, they just get specific guys to fit their system and it just works. So I'm curious to see how these guys will fit into that and what Michigan's going to look like. I think that's pretty interesting. Now
to the big news.
yeah,
The other side.
Michigan State got a commitment from the top recruit.
And regardless of class,
Yeah,
number
he's
1 player.
technically the 2022 class, Imani Bates. Now, anybody that follows basketball at all, I think knows the name Imani Bates. But if you don't follow basketball, Imani Bates is another one of those guys that has been talked about as another LeBron incoming. They've followed him since he was super young, and he's delivered ever since. He won a state championship.
Yeah.
He won his state championship his freshman year.
I think he's won 2.
He's won 2
And he's
this one got canceled.
Yeah.
But they were in line to make noise again.
And he's the first sophomore to ever win Gatorade Player of the Year.
Right. So he's still got 2 more seasons.
Maybe.
And yeah, we'll see. Another big story from Imani Bates before we let Malik go on it as well. Imani Bates and his father have also decided that they're going to open an academy in Ypsilanti. So that he can travel the country to play other players to boost his rep, which I think is honestly a great idea because some people are a little bit skeptical of like the competition that he plays. So now if he opens up a private academy, he can go travel and play those other big academy schools where we've seen so many NBA players come from. So that'll be interesting as well, as now even he'll get national TV coverage with those kind of teams. What are your thoughts on the whole Imani Bates situation and spectacle, basically.
Yeah, I think we're lucky that I've known about him since he was in the 7th grade because my stepdad is a high school coach. I've been watching like Detroit, all high school basketball in the state for years,
Right.
and there were times when I would see him practicing like with his team when he was in 7th or 8th grade, and I'd hear these things like, yeah, you look at him right now, he's 6'7", he's 12, 13 years old. He already has this skill set. And there are videos calling him baby KD. And I was like, okay, I'll make sure to take a look at this kid. I've never seen a prospect like this in the state of Michigan. So yeah, ever since then, he like you said, he's done nothing but live up to expectations. I saw him play in the EYBL last summer against Bronny's team, LeBron James' son's team. He gave them 40-something and like 16 rebounds. It was clear that it was a man amongst boys. Although Bronny's team won by like 20, I think, because Imani's team just like the overall talent of his team didn't like match up to the other teams.
I was gonna say, but when you have Bronny James on your team, your team's gonna be stacked.
Yeah, it was Bronny and like all the other top players in that class like together. It was ridiculous.
Was Wade playing on that team at that time?
No, he's older than Bronny. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, after that. I watched all the highlights and I knew he was good, but once I saw him live that one time, I saw all I needed to see. Comparing him, I wish people would stop the LeBron comparisons.
Right.
They need to say he's the best prospect since LeBron. I've heard some people say that, but everybody just comes down to the simple thing of, oh, he's the next LeBron, which it's not the same.
Yeah.
LeBron wasn't the next Jordan. They're not the same type of player.
Right.
Imani Bates isn't the next LeBron. Imani Bates, to me, he's this good. He has the potential to be the young Kevin Durant.
Right.
He literally has every skill set in his toolbox. He has the tight handle. He has the deep jumper. His jumper is really smooth. There's nothing bad about it. He's aggressive. On the defensive end, he's not like a extremely great defender. He's only like 16.
But he's long.
But
athletic.
yeah, he's so competitive that on the defensive end, when he's in it, he will lock you down. He's 6'9", could be 6'10", 6'11". Like, he's going to be around 200 pounds soon. He is a nightmare for competition. He's the truth. And a lot of people are skeptical. I got into a bit of a debate on Twitter with people over this a few months ago, which getting into Twitter debates never goes
dangerous.
Never ends well. But yeah, when ESPN posted the thing of Imani Bates' best prospect since LeBron, and put him on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the comments was nothing but Andrew Wiggins. We've seen this before. He's a bust. We've seen it before. Yeah. And I just had to post something. I replied to one person that said something crazy, and I was like, everybody needs to, just because of Andrew Wiggins and a few guys that busted doesn't mean
OJ Mayo.
It doesn't mean that this kid isn't that great.
Right.
Watch his highlights for yourself. Watch game footage for yourself and then make a decision. Don't just assume stuff. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen him multiple times now. It's real. It's because he's from Michigan and he's unknown and he's out of nowhere. People just assume, nope, it's not the truth. He's the truth.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially on the West Coast, when you have so many powerhouse academies out in the West Coast, to hear somebody from the Midwest, which normally the Midwest is not as known for having the biggest basketball prospects. I can see where the skepticism comes in, but anybody from like the Midwest area, I think, knows about Imani Bates. And I mean, everybody knows about him ultimately, but they probably don't have the same opinion as we do about it. And that's understandable. But like I said, now they're going to build this academy, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out where he stacks up with those other teams.
And that leads to, even though Michigan State fans, I know you're excited. This is the best news ever. It's a long time away.
Yeah, 2022.
He's a Lansing kid. I've been to multiple Michigan State games. Whenever I'm there, he's there.
Mm-hmm.
He's been at Michigan State games his entire life. It's what he's comfortable with. If he goes to college, he's gonna go there. But who knows what can happen in 2 years?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they're gonna change the NBA rule Unexpected kids can come out of high school. Everybody assumed that's why a lot of colleges haven't recruited him. It's been only like 4 or 5 schools recruiting him because they assumed the NBA would switch the rule for Imani Bates for him to be the first one coming back out of high school.
And also with the new way that players can go into the G League and then make it into the NBA, there's been a couple guys that have kind of committed to doing that. So I think that's another fear for some colleges at times. And then there's also the weird possibility he could go play overseas or something. There's a lot of options for that. I'd rather see him play 1 year of college, be one and done. Because if he produces at all at Michigan State, he's one and done. Like, he's not going to stay there.
Yeah.
So even though the excitement of having him there, it's going to be like Miles Bridges and all those guys. Like, they're just going to leave because they're too talented. But either way, it's going to be exciting. And I don't know necessarily how like academy scheduling works. Like, if they would be able to get Imani to be able to play a super good team. And I don't know what his teammates are like. I know he's gotten some guys that are committed to playing this academy team with him, but I don't want it to be like how you said when he went to go play Bronny James. Like, if there were some way they could schedule a game where they played Monteverde or Oak Hill or something,
they're probably going to play those schools.
You think so?
Those schools might come here.
Okay.
Because Michigan rules, I still don't know how it's going to work with Michigan rules because Michigan schools can't go, besides like Ohio, a certain place in Ohio, Michigan schools can't go around the country and play games. Like, I've seen holiday tournaments for high schools where Chicago schools come here, Michigan schools can't go to Chicago to play. Okay. Stupid rule. But yeah, who knows how prep school in Michigan is going to work? I assume big schools are going to come here.
Okay.
Because he's the number one no matter class. So it's going to attract schools to come here.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind too, is that I don't know if his team is going to be super great. We'll see if he gets any other people to maybe join him or something.
I'm pretty they're going to be pretty good. They're already getting like top-notch kids to come in and play with them. Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, like, compared to like an Oak Hill or something where they are just constantly top-notch, I don't know. We'll see. It kind of makes it exciting, like I said, and we'll probably get some televised games to be able to see.
Also, I think this is like a Jaren Jackson situation where the fans excited, kid comes in, he's everything he was supposed to be. But I'm not going to the side where Tom Izzo didn't use Jaren Jackson exactly how he should have used him. He should have let Jaren and Miles pretty much control that offense from like start to finish. I'm pretty sure he's gonna let Imani do what he wants to do because he's that great of a prospect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a thing with like a Jaren Jackson where he's gonna come in for 1 year and then gone. The year they had Jaren Jackson was disappointing. Who knows if they win the championship with Imani Bates, but it's gonna be 1 year.
Yeah.
I think the other kid that committed recently is who they should care more about because I think he could be a 3-4 year kid, even though he's a 5-star.
Right.
And that's Max Christie.
And nobody's heard of him. Well, because Imani Bates took over the headlines. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I'm excited. It's interesting, and it definitely. And again, that's going to make Michigan State be heavily watched in 2022. Again, it's a while away, but it gives hype for Michigan State.
For the next 3 or 4 years, they might be the team to watch. Yeah. Outside of Duke, obviously Duke, Kentucky, like Gonzaga, Michigan State's going to be the team to watch.
Yeah, and especially actually now, Michigan State can start looking for those guys like a Cassius Winston that's going to stay with the team.
Yeah, like the kid they have coming in this year, AJ Hoggard, I think is his name, point guard. He's probably going to be a 3 or 4 year guy. He's not going anytime soon.
Yeah, so you can get this mold going for Imani to just fill in and join up with these veteran guys that, are going to be just hardworking guys, and then Imani can just go do his thing. Another thing we wanted to touch on was Makur Maker, which brother of Thon Maker, and I
actually think he might be his cousin.
Is he?
Yeah, I think it's his cousin.
I can't remember. I've heard multiple things.
Mator is his brother. I think Makur is his cousin.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just move on.
It's
Same bloodlines.
There's a lot of weird stuff with that family after the whole Thon drama coming
It's
in.
age questions on all of them, but yeah,
But
we'll skip that
anyway,
part for now.
he has committed to go to an HBCU. He's going to Howard,
Yep.
which is the first like big name recruit to commit to that. There have been other guys much younger. If anybody knows Mikey Williams, he's kind of another up and coming high school player. He's the class of 2023,
Yeah.
I think.
His mom went to Hampton, so
Um,
he already like knows the whole experience of the HBCU thing. So
yeah, so
yeah,
he's
that's
another one that's talked about it. Kind of got that um, conversation going. But McClure has made that decision, and it's really, really interesting because it could change somewhat of the landscape of college basketball, I think, because we've already seen a lot of like, I just know that this year when we were talking college basketball, it was like every time we brought up top 25, it was like top 25 was constantly changing, constantly changing. It just seems like college basketball is getting better and better at being just competitive throughout the country. So for somebody to make this decision going to Howard, like that could make them relevant and that could get guys to join up with him. And then that pushes them up there and who knows what happens. So I just think it's a really interesting thing and I'm curious to see what it does going forward. What are your thoughts?
I thought it might have happened last year. Actually, no, I don't. Josh Christopher, he took a visit to Howard, and like everybody got like excited, like he could possibly do it. But I think everybody really knew it was down to Michigan and Arizona State, honestly, and he ended up picking Arizona State. But yeah, the fact that he actually made this decision, somebody actually did it, is really big. It's gonna take a while for a lot of people to still understand it, because certain people,
Which here,
yeah.
I'll let you kind of explain it too. What is an HBCU for people that don't
Yeah.
know?
HBCU, historically black college or university. That's what it stands for. You know, like the SWAC, the MEAC, those conferences.
Right.
Yeah, those are the historically black colleges. And like you said, no big prospect has ever gone there. There have been times where in the like 90s and 80s, there were times where black colleges almost made upsets, or in the 90s, there were a few years where some black colleges did make upsets, like Hampton or I think Coppin State. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a long time since there were really like top notch teams that could possibly make upsets in the tournament. A few years ago, Texas Southern was a team that made a little bit of noise. They had a few good players that could have gone pro, a few guys that went overseas, but yeah, they didn't end up living up to that hype. Now that a player of this caliber goes to an HBCU, it shows certain kids and certain players that this is possible. Honestly, if you go to a HBCU, you're gonna be able to do what you're gonna be able to show your full game.
Mm-hmm.
There's not gonna be any holding you back.
Right.
That could be a plus or a minus. We'll have to see how it works out.
Yeah.
But it sounds great going there. You're gonna be the guy. If you get a team to a tournament, you're probably going top 3.
Yeah.
if you like get a team to a tournament and make them look that good, if you're that high caliber of a player.
Right.
So yeah, there are so many things that we don't know about it so far, but the fact that it's happened is ridiculously huge news.
Yeah. And McClure is another one of those 7-foot point guard, crazy build. I like he's the new style of NBA, and he's way better than Thon, in my opinion.
The 6'10" to 7-foot guy that can do it all.
Yeah. Like he handles the ball really well for his size. He shoots the ball well. He moves well. He just does things that in previous iterations of the NBA, a 7-footer would never be able to do. So it's going to be really interesting to see, and I'm sure he'll get a good following to see his progress. But it's just something that will be interesting to follow for years to come to see how many other players will commit to an HBCU or play for an HBCU. And honestly, like I said, I would love for that to happen because I like win college basketball, I have no idea who's going to win. I think that's one of my favorite things about the last couple tournaments is that it just feels like it's not Kentucky, Duke, North
Yeah.
Carolina that are winning every year. It's like anybody has a chance. There's so many different teams, which for me is exciting. So I'm curious what it's going to do going forward.
I think it's going to be slow, honestly. I
Yeah.
think in the next few years, you might only see like 1, 2, maybe 3 guys at the most in the next few years.
Right.
But if it can like continue on that pace, 1 or 2 guys each year, then we could see some change happening. That would be a major thing in college basketball if that happened.
Yeah, and again, I do think that McClure is like kind of the best person to start this, mostly because we talked about like, it could be a pro and a con for, your draft stock or something. But McClure is he's a 7-footer with skill.
Yeah.
Like for the NBA, they love that. Somebody's going to give him a chance. Whereas if you get somebody that's more of, even if it's a high recruit and he's like a 6'5", 6'6" shooting guard or something, it's just not going to, it might not look as good and it might hurt him a little bit, which is unfortunate. But I think McClure starting this, it shouldn't hurt him as much.
Like if like the number 6 or 7 player in Michigan chose to go to a HBCU, it wouldn't draw a whole bunch of noise.
Right.
Probably like a 3-star kid. Once you get to 4-star, that's when it starts getting interesting. But when you get to top 15 player in the country, that's when things start to change.
Yeah. So I think that's a good look for that. That's pretty much it for college basketball. There's not a whole lot. I don't know if there's any other recruits that you wanted to talk about.
I could just bring up real quick. Cade Cunningham decided to stick with Oklahoma State. They've got a tournament ban this year because of stuff. It's a weird thing with the NCAA for me. In like 2013, 2014, they broke some rules. Now they're putting it on this team and these coaches that had nothing to do with it back then. I understand you have to put some punishment on the university.
Yeah.
But yeah, making this team, especially with the number 1 player in the country going there this year, him not being in the tournament isn't good for business. And even though you have to make that type of decision, I understand the NCAA doing that. It just looks bad since the top player in the country he's sticking with the decision to go to Oklahoma State. He can't play in the tournament. So if the season happens, he just has to ball out in the regular season and conference tournament as much as he can. He's the best prospect in the country to me by far.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that he decided to stick with Oklahoma State it was pretty surprising.
Which, speaking of Cade Cunningham, I saw the other day, and I don't know if you know anything about it, but supposedly, what was it, going into like last year or something, he was listed at like 6'6", and this year they have him listed as 6'8".
Yeah, I think
that he's already like gained 2 inches.
I bet he's still 6'6".
He could be
6'6" with sneakers off, 6'8" with sneakers on. Who knows, man?
But either way, if he grew and now he's 6'8" or something,
problems.
It's nutty.
Yeah.
But yeah. Moving on, we'll go to college football. A couple little things here and there for that as well. Again, I have not been keeping up on my college stuff. I'm gonna let Malik kind of take over with the Michigan and Michigan State recruits. And then I do know the one thing that we'll talk about at the end where Oklahoma got a good quarterback, top quarterback.
Well, there hasn't been a whole bunch going on. Michigan has gotten a few recruits in the past month or two. Over the summer and like since the beginning of the summer, they've got some huge recruits. They might be putting together Jim Harbaugh's best class since he got to Michigan, which is really surprising knowing that he hasn't lived up to the crazy expectations so far. But I think Josh Gaddis is really starting to make a dent in what Michigan is becoming. And he made that hire at the right time. They obviously have J.J. McCarthy, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country, coming to Michigan. He just came off of the Elite 11 and was one of the best quarterbacks there. So the hype on him is going to be insane. He's one of the most talented kids to come into Michigan in like the past 30 years.
Is he going to be in the quarterback battle for this year if they play?
Well, no, he wouldn't be in this. Well, he's not in this upcoming class. He's in the 2021
okay.
2021
Gotcha.
class is what I'm talking about. Yeah, but
Gotcha.
yeah, in the past 2 months they've got Linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the country, kid out of Tennessee named Junior Colson, 6'2", 230. He's just an overall like beast. This is the type of recruit they haven't gotten in the past few years, and they're starting to get. Defensive end out of Arizona, Quentin Somerville, another 4-star guy, one of the best defensive ends in the country, held off a bunch of big schools to get him, and they're recruiting a new style of wide receiver that fits Josh Gaddis, kind of in the mold of guys he was recruiting at Alabama, which fits his speed and space moniker. Kid out of California named Christian Dixon. He plays at Mater Dei, one of the powerhouses in the country for high school football. 4-star kid. And they're in line for some other 4-star receivers that are like speed and crazy athleticism too. So yeah, this class is looking really well for them so far. And yeah, honestly, when it comes to Michigan State, it's Mel Tucker's first year. Can't expect any types of fireworks. They have a okay class, honestly, near the bottom of the Big Ten East right now, but they got a commitment recently from a tight end in Florida. Actually, he's playing at IMG this year, so we'll see how good he is when it comes to that. He's going to be playing against top competition. Kid named Jake Renda, 6'5", 230, really good size. Honestly, a Michigan State type of recruit. Kid that comes in, they build on him, becomes a maybe honorable Big Ten or all Big Ten guy within his 3rd or 4th year. So yeah, nothing crazy out of Michigan and Michigan State right now, but Michigan is looking to hit on some big recruits in the coming months. Yeah,
which is important for Harbaugh because he's getting on the hot seat.
Yeah, really big. There's a offensive lineman. There were 2 offensive linemen out of Clarkston that were top 5 offensive linemen in the country. One of them, Garrett Dellinger, he committed to LSU a few weeks ago. That kind of made Michigan fans sad. He wanted to go play in the SEC. Can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
But there's another kid. I can't remember exactly what his name is, but he's the top offensive tackle, top player in Michigan this year. And he's down to Michigan, Ohio State, and I think like a few other SEC schools. So they're trying to hit on him and another receiver out of California. So yeah, hopefully they'll hit on those guys.
Yeah.
It's looking like it might be a really great class for them.
It's interesting. And then Oklahoma, they got the top-rated quarterback, dual threat.
Yeah.
To commit to them recently.
The rich get richer.
Right after they lose
year after year.
Jalen Hurts, basically. And like it just fits right into the mold like we were talking about before we started that like Oklahoma just loves to have a dual threat quarterback, be able to just air it out, things like that. And that's what they're going to be able to do.
His name is Kayla Williams, by the way.
Yeah, I was
out of Washington.
I
DC.
was silently trying to think of his name, and I couldn't think of it, and all I could get was Caleb. But yeah.
Yeah, well, from what I've seen from him, his high school stats aren't the biggest or like most outlandish. I think last year he threw like 16 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I think they're a more like run heavy offense. And I think he also rushed for like 800 yards and 12 touchdowns. But like where his recruiting went up and he became number 1 in the class was on the camp circuit, going around to different camps and leading up to the Elite 11. I heard on the first few days of the Elite 11, it was no question. Like he set himself apart from everybody. He was the most accurate. Like his throwing motion is like top notch, pro level. He gets it out quick. Like he's like 6'1", 210. Like he has the body. He has everything you need for a top notch quarterback, and he's following the fraternity of quarterbacks into Oklahoma. Yeah. Now they're recruiting guys. They're not just relying on transfers. So it's gonna go on for maybe like another 15 years if they keep this recruiting going up. Because Lincoln Riley is gonna get those guys to play great.
Right, and they're gonna be in the conversation for the college football playoff. Almost every year. They're just one of those teams. If they could just figure out their defense, and maybe they could win a national championship. But yeah, it just makes Oklahoma look really good, and it's just more of kind of what we've seen in the last few years of how college football has panned out, where these dual threat quarterbacks are just taking over.
You have to have that standout guy, the guy that raises your program. Before Clemson got Deshaun Watson, they were a team that was known for choking away 1 or 2 games every season. They could never get to a high-level bowl or contend for a national championship because of that. They get Deshaun Watson. A few years later, they're in a national championship. It's happens just like that. Once you get that guy today, you can be. Well, I think you have to be in like the top 15, top 10 range.
Yeah.
Also, a school that's known for being a winning program, like schools like Michigan are a quarterback away. There are other schools that are just that guy away. Florida, all those schools at that top level. Once you get that guy, you're right there. And Michigan might have their guy with his name slipped my mind that fast.
You
That's
said
terrible.
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, they might have their guy in JJ McCarthy. Ohio State has had a string of guys over the past 10 years. They've just been embarrassingly rich because of Urban Meyer. And Oklahoma, they have guys for the next few years. And those top 3-4 schools, they're going to keep the quarterback rooms great for years to come.
Yeah. Real quick before we get into professional sports, I want to just ask you a question. Have you watched the basketball tournament at all?
I have watched a few minutes of a few games, and it has me encouraged for NBA basketball and potentially college basketball.
Yeah.
Because just seeing live basketball on TV, it just made me happy. Even though it's a bunch of some guys are washed up. Actually, some of those guys can actually still really play.
Joe Johnson is on the number 1 team.
Joe Johnson?
He is playing.
The NBA player?
Yes.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, he's playing on
what team is that?
He's playing on Overseas Elite.
Overseas Elite?
They're the top ranked team, and they have a couple former pros.
Oh man, yeah,
it's kind of weird.
First of all, why is he on Overseas Elite?
I'm gonna look at their team, but I was just curious if you had watched it at all. I caught the end of one of the games in one of the earlier rounds.
Yeah, a few days ago I was watching. It was the CP3 team versus the Marquette team, and they had Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade, they had them on live, Skype or whatever during the game. So it was pretty entertaining. Some of the guys can still really play, like I said. So it's really watching that. It's not about the play, even though I'm watching basketball live, like I said, great thing to see. It's the fact that the NBA will probably happen, and college basketball is more of an iffy thing because the NBA is playing under a bubble. And college basketball, you really can't do that. So, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But, the NBA is most likely going to happen, and that's great to see. Them playing under a bubble is working so far.
Yeah, so far it looks pretty good. I was trying to look at Overseas Elite, but I can't find it quick enough. But I know Joe Johnson's on that team, and they have another big, I say big name, but people probably wouldn't know who he was. But he was also on that team, I remember looking at. But there's a couple former teams that you'll see. I think the fun one is Ohio State always has a team every year with Aaron Kraft. If anybody remembers that annoying guy.
Nick Ward and Andrew Dockich are on the same team.
Oh my god!
I think they're called Team X or something. It was so funny when seeing them two on the same team just is so weird.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is the Aaron Kraft team, the Ohio State team, is that Aaron Kraft, this is his last. He's been playing in the tournament since he got out of college. He never really made it in an NBA or overseas.
He was in the D League for a while.
Yeah,
he went overseas too.
Never really turned out. So he ended up getting his doctorate. So he's gonna be
good for him.
Yeah, it's crazy that he's playing in this tournament and he's gonna lace up the shoes for the last time, and then he's gonna go become a doctor. So that's impressive. But yeah, it's kind of a fun little tournament they do every year for $1 million, and I don't know. It's cool seeing some old guys when Travis Bader's team made a little bit of a run, and they won.
I didn't even see them. I haven't seen them play so far.
Well, that was I'm talking previously.
Oh, okay.
They had won the one year, I believe.
I didn't know they won one year.
I think they did.
I've seen Overseas Elite win.
Don't call me.
I think I saw the Ohio State team win. I've only watched it like 2 or 3 of the past years. So
yeah, but that's just a fun little thing.
If Oakland had a team, it would be pretty good
to be able to watch basketball. Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad. All right, big NFL news that came in.
The biggest NFL news
yesterday,
probably in the past. I don't know how many years.
Wow.
This news this goes across all sports, honestly, because it's the biggest contract in sports history.
Patrick Mahomes secured the bag yesterday.
He secured more than the bag. He secured the Brinks truck. He secured the bank. He secured the place where the money comes from that before he gets to the bank.
Yeah.
He got all of it.
So Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs signed a 10-year, $450 million contract,
Which could end up being
which could be adjusted.
503.
Yeah, it could be adjusted. So there's a clause on this contract, just so everybody's aware, that it will regulate with the salary cap. So if the salary cap goes down, the money will go down a little. If the salary cap goes up, the money will go up a little. It's like a percentage of the salary cap. But either way, he's getting about $45 million a year.
$45 million a year.
And to say this is the biggest contract in sports history. Now, the one thing that I will say, because even I wasn't sure about it, I was like, there's got to be a baseball contract bigger. And there are. With Mike Trout and everything, his contract is insane. And it's more technically because there's all these different factors in baseball contracts. But for a football player to be making $450 million in 10 years is insane. And they're comparing it to other things. And he's basically, what was the thing that I sent you the other day? It was that he's basically making $1.2 million every 9 days. Every 9 days. And they think an NFL player is probably getting paid about every 2 weeks or so. Could you imagine seeing that go into your bank account?
I couldn't.
Every 2 weeks you get like almost $2 million.
I can't. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Like, it's hard to fathom. And to be honest, like, the other thing that people were saying, and I think you were saying it, is that you brought up, it's like he has to win so many times now, and he has to win MVPs, Super Bowls. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because like they're doing this before, like salary cap is going to go up in the NFL, and it's already increasing. And I'm curious, I don't know if it's going to be right. You could totally be right on this, where he has to win everything for that contract to be worth it. But it could turn out to be like the NBA, where you sign these guys to big deals now, and then you don't have to pay them later when the salary cap keeps going up, and you don't get some weird Nick Batum signing, you know?
But
so I'm curious of how that's going to turn out, but just perspective.
I'm going to stick to what I said. And what I said was, I still think to get this kind of contract, I think he has to win at least 5 more Super Bowls, at least 3 more MVPs, and he has to stay healthy the entire time to earn this type of contract. Because there's a reason why no NFL player might not ever get a contract like this again, and never has. I thought I'd never see this type of money in football ever in my life.
Yeah. It's insane.
To get this type of money, you have to be he has to be the greatest of all time by the time this is over.
Yeah.
He has to be either right there with Tom Brady or slightly above him because of another Super Bowl. Like there's no excuse. There's no, if he gets hurt, that's the only thing that can mess it up. If he's healthy, he's got to keep greatness going nonstop.
Yeah.
And a level of greatness that we might not have ever seen before.
And
this money right here.
And I do agree with you to a certain point too. Like, yeah, he has to keep this up. Like he basically just has to keep doing what he's been doing, to be honest.
Yes.
If he keeps at this level for the next 10 years, I think it'll be worth it.
I think if he keeps them in Super Bowl contention for the next 10 years,
yeah,
he doesn't have to win 5, if he wins if he wins 2 or 3 more, but they maintain Super Bowl contention every single year, getting to conference championships, maybe losing, getting to Super Bowls, maybe losing. He wins 1 or 2 more MVPs. If they stay right there at this level they're at for these next 10 years, then yeah, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I said, there's a reason why this contract will never go to anybody else.
And
there's a chance.
And you would like to hope, though, that the Kansas City Chiefs are smart enough, the way that they made that contract to where it flexes depending on if the cap goes up or down, that they would have weighed in what they think they need as far as extra room to be able to go and sign other guys. Because I know one of the things that people kept bringing up is that, you saw Tom Brady a lot sign for these small deals or smaller
to maintain the greatness of the team.
Yeah, compared to what he could have gotten to keep that team relevant. Again, I think the Chiefs hopefully are smart enough to know like how much extra money they'll need to maintain guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and things like that, and to also add pieces if they need. But it is a concern. Like, is it going to cause a similar situation to like what people thought with the Stafford contract? That now it's going to tie up all our money. What are we going to be able to do? And now, again, this goes back to my point about, in a couple of years, this might not be that big of a deal. The Stafford contract isn't that crazy nowadays.
Wasn't the Stafford contract, wasn't that the biggest deal a quarterback had ever gotten?
Yes, at that time.
How crazy is it that is baby money now?
Yeah. And so that
money is nothing.
And so that's where I bring in the point that
he got that contract 2 years ago, right? I think it was 2.
Could have been.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. But yeah, that was the most money at that time. And now that looks like a solid contract. So it's hard to say going forward what this contract is. I don't think it's going to jump that much to where this contract is going to look like nothing, but it will be interesting to see like once some other guys come up what they're going to get paid. The funniest thing to me is Dak Prescott in all of this.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Go on, please.
Is that he's just going to look at the Cowboys and be like, "Where's my money?" And they're like, "You're really going to ask for Pat Mahomes' money?"
I don't think he's that crazy. Dak is a smart guy. I don't think he's going to demand that money, but he's going to go in there and say, "Look at my numbers these past few years. Look what I did when Tony got hurt."
Yeah.
And I pretty much elevated what they were doing once Tony got hurt. And we've had Super Bowl expectations since I've been here because everybody knows I can get this done.
Yeah.
What kind of money are you going to give me?
Yeah. But now it's going to be interesting to see guys like
if he asks for 150, that might not be crazy. Seeing what Pat Mahomes just got.
Yeah.
That's seeing what Pat Mahomes before this deal. If he asked for 150, I'd be like, you Dak, you're nuts.
Yeah.
But after this Pat deal, 150 might be like, that's reasonable.
Yeah, it's hard to judge where the market's going to go for this because, like, I think of guys like Deshaun Watson, who's up there in top quarterbacks.
He deserves that type of money.
Lamar Jackson.
We got to see what Lamar does for these next few years. Yeah.
But his rookie contract is getting closer and closer. So if he keeps his skill up, where's he going to land? Like, he will probably garner the same amount. And then looking even further, obviously, but like guys like Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, like just big name guys that we think can make noise.
I'm happy you brought that up because looking towards the future, I can't even like fathom the type of contracts these young guys are about to try to demand.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure Lamar is going to ask for a hefty check.
Yeah, because now you compare it to Patrick Mahomes. And like Lamar Jackson can say, "Hey, my numbers are just as good as him. He was injured this past year."
If he gets the Ravens to a few AFC championships and Super Bowls in the next few years, how can you say no to him?
He definitely has to prove himself a little bit in the playoffs. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very similar vein, I think.
That's why Deshaun has earned it. He's taken the Texans and done things with them that without him they wouldn't have gotten close to. Yeah. And now they just stripped him of his guy. And sent him to Arizona. So they've got to damn near pay him $300 to get him to stay in Houston.
I just don't think he's going to stay.
He shouldn't.
I just don't think he's going to.
I'd go somewhere else for under $100 million if it means I was going to get far in the playoffs and play on a really good team and not have Bill as my coach. Yeah. /GM.
That's another tricky situation.
Exactly.
All right, let's finish it up. We got about 10 minutes left, a little bit less. Talk about the NBA real quick. Something that I forgot about that we didn't talk about last week. The Pistons actually made a move. in this offseason.
The Pistons made a move?
Yeah. They got Troy Weaver in as their GM.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot
So the
about
Pistons
that.
now
Yeah,
have
we just didn't talk about it.
they now have a GM.
That's how much I don't think about the Pistons, everybody. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, so Troy Weaver coming over from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's been in the league for a while. He's helped some teams. He's the one that drafted Russell Westbrook, which a lot of people have pointed to as he's somebody that can find draft prospects really well.
He was in the scouting department for 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, before yeah.
Yeah. So people are giving him credit for that, especially when the Pistons have a big draft coming up. The draft lottery, I believe, is in early August, and then they move to draft to, I don't know if it's the end of August or not. I don't really remember,
I
but
think it's late August.
something like that. It's a big draft for the Pistons as they're most likely going to get a top 5, 7.
They should get top 5.
Yeah.
But
Something
the
scares
Pistons.
me. I don't know if you follow the Red Wings at all, but they were the favorite to get the top number 1 overall pick this year, and they got 4th.
Hey,
so
but I've said besides
when there were like the top 2 draft prospects in hockey were like knockouts, like surefire guys.
besides that Darko pick, when they got that top pick, they don't get that luck. They don't get
Yeah.
top 3.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really get top 5.
They get their Stanley Johnsons. Oh, Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond was the one. What was he, 4?
Something like 3.
Yeah, I think he was
4.
like, he was in that range. But
And he worked out for the most part.
yeah, besides that, I've never. They're always in between the 7 to 12 range.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought Stanley Johnson. In retrospect, I still think he could have been a good pro. I think Stan Van ruined that whole thing.
Yeah.
As a rookie, he showed a ton of promise.
Mm-hmm.
He maybe in better situations he would have made it, but yeah, his career is close to over.
Yeah.
But yeah, this draft could break the Pistons for like an extra 3-4 years tacked on to what they have right now, or it could bring in a guy that's a huge surprise and could put them on a solid schedule of being maybe in playoff contention in like 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that the Pistons did, they did also sign an assistant GM in what's his name, David Mintzberg. He came from Milwaukee, so I'm sure Chris is somehow excited about that. I don't really know this guy's resume. This happened, I think, just yesterday, to be honest, and I'm sure more stuff will come out about his resume today or something. I'll have to look it up. But it's nice to see that the Pistons are building up their front office with some notable names for the most part within that area. And going back to Troy Weaver real quick, I know a lot of people were disappointed that the Pistons didn't make a move for like Chauncey Billups or something, which
Chauncey and Tayshaun is what everybody was
yeah.
shouting for.
In retrospect, I am a little disappointed. But at the same time, like, you're putting up a big risk where neither of these guys have experience in the front office. And yeah, I think Chauncey would be great, especially recruiting, getting free agents and stuff like that. But at the same time, like the business end, you would still have to assign an assistant to be able to do all these things for him on the business end of it. I'm not sure how that would have worked out. It would have been a great look for the team, but I think Troy Weaver is like probably the best option they had. So as long as they went with Weaver or maybe Chauncey or something, took a risk on it, I'm okay with it. I think Troy looks like he's going to be able to get something done. And again, like I said, this is a big draft for the Pistons. And I think getting him in there when he picked Russell Westbrook over a lot of teams that didn't think Russell Westbrook was that good, I think is really important. So maybe he can. So if by chance we fall beyond that top 5 where it starts to get a little murky in the draft, I'll feel a little bit better maybe that Troy is, making some decisions.
Yeah, this is a draft where if you have top 7, I think from 1 to like 4 maybe is where you could get all-stars. I think LaMelo is the one like superstar that could be in this draft. Maybe James Wiseman, I don't know. But 1 to 4 you could get all-stars. I think 5 to 8 maybe you get really good serviceable guys that can play for you for years and contribute a lot. And past that, it's just a crapshoot.
Yeah. And then you got guys like Obi Toppin that are like ready to go.
Yeah.
Like
I
he's
think,
ready.
I think the Pistons are going to get top 8. There's a good chance they could get top 5. If you get top 5, having Troy Weaver, I think they could get a really good guy. And LaMelo Ball is going number 1.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think it's
I don't-
dependent on who
It's
gets.
dependent on a team, but which of the like terrible teams have their point guard besides Atlanta has Trae Young? What other team has their point guard?
Golden State. I think Golden State is the biggest X factor in this draft
Who knows what
because
goes,
they
but
could take James Wiseman, or they could just trade out
listen,
of the pick.
I don't think we're getting the number 2 pick either. So 1 and 2, if we got those, hooray. But I don't think that's happening.
Hey,
So
the Pelicans got number 1 last year, and they weren't supposed to. There
that
can always be
that doesn't
hope.
happen for Detroit.
There can always be hope.
There can, but come on. It's
I know.
But
I shouldn't have high expectations.
a guy that I've told you about and that I really like. It took me a while to get convinced on him because the first time I watched some game footage of him and some like other highlights, I didn't believe at all. But I watched some more and some more. I did some more digging. I got into my scout bag. I didn't go to my sources like Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have many sources.
Yeah.
But I did some thinking. I think Killian Hayes can fall to the Pistons. Point guard out of France.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. A lot of point guards from overseas don't work.
Yeah.
There's a few in every draft that actually work. Frank Ntilikina was the last one. He was much more raw than people thought,
Yeah.
and it honestly should have been obvious. He was so young; he didn't have much to his game. All he had was potential, and that's the picks in the NBA draft I hate. When you draft mainly on, we could build him into something, and he's not much right now.
Yeah.
Hate those picks. Killian Hayes plays like a pro right now. He averaged good numbers in the Euro League. Smooth lefty jumper. He takes his time. He doesn't let the defense speed him up. He's really good in the pick and roll, which is essential for most like really top-notch point guards today. If you can't work the pick and roll, your game really doesn't have much.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good in the pick and roll. He's a really good passer. Obviously, he has to build on all of that. I think he's just 18, but he has that skill level. He's around 6'5". He has a good amount of athleticism, really good jumper. I think Killian Hayes would be a good pick, especially for an organization like the Pistons. You don't need to no winning now. You've tried that too many times. The win now era is done. It's time to actually invest in the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
You have Sekou, who is a great pick for a rebuilding team. He already had a good amount of talent. You just have to keep building on that. He's shown a bunch of promise.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they draft Killian Hayes, it would be a good point guard to have.
Hmm.
Now, if they get top 2, you could get LaMelo. You could get Anthony Edwards. I don't know if Anthony Edwards will work out here in Detroit, but he's extremely talented.
Yeah.
Having Obi Toppin wouldn't hurt either, but I really like Killian Hayes.
Yeah.
And having that guy at point guard is the main thing that gets teams over the hump today. It's not the 2 guard. The big man has made a little bit of a comeback, but when it comes down to it, you got to have, unless they're superstars like Bron or KD, you've got to have that top-notch point guard to get over the hump, and I like Killian Hayes.
Well, we'll talk more about that when, the lottery especially happens.
Do your research, kids.
We'll get to talk about a lot of the prospects, which I actually have been following a lot of that stuff.
I'm excited to get into the draft because this could be a major bust of a draft.
Yeah,
major.
It could be a very boom or bust draft because I think that the draft is deep, but there's a lot of question marks for a lot of guys.
In terms of the lottery, who knows?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to see that going forward, what's happening, and we'll just talk draft prospects and whether the Pistons get screwed or not, we'll see. But either way, like the NBA's got some stuff. And then at the end of the month, NBA starts. So we'll have plenty to talk about. Hopefully more things keep coming in. We'll keep you guys updated. We'll see you guys next time.
If you had that Pat Mahomes contract, what would you do?
Retire.
I think I'd buy a Detroit team and remake it in my image and make them a winning franchise.